Yeah.
Hi, everyone. How are you? My name is Regis Fox, and I am counting it a high honor to be sitting here with Marlon James. And I think we're going to start with a reading, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I figured I should read one of the lighter scenes in a pretty dark book. This is one of the characters in Brief History. All you need to know about the scene, the character's name is Dorcas Palmer. And she is a private nurse, and she took her client to the Bronx. It's a long story that you have to read the book to find out how they end up in the Bronx from downtown Manhattan. And at some point in the night, her client just seems to have lost his entire memory. And she doesn't know what to do. Also, her name is not Dorcas Palmer. So this is her. I don't know, but I'm coming damn close to the conclusion that Heather Locklear's hair looks better in T.J. Hooker than it does in Dynasty. Or maybe I just don't like that the one woman in Dynasty who has to struggle for everything is a bitch. And not even a real bitch like Alexis Carrington. Since she doesn't have any money, so she's really just a bitchlet. This is why her hair just doesn't work on that show. Besides, she really makes me want to wear a uniform when she's on T.J. Hooker. Maybe become a policewoman for real, because try wearing attractive clothes all day is just too damn expensive, even when you're not trying to look good. Sometimes you just want a shirt that still makes men know that you have breasts. He's still in the bathroom. It's weird I've been calling him he for the past, 55 minutes? I mean, I don't know who the hell is in my bathroom. The thing is, the more I try to figure it out, the less sense it makes. So the best thing to do is not think, really. Like that man in Crime and Punishment, where Dostoevsky says he was beyond thought or something like that. I swear to God, sometimes I wish I was still a book-reading woman, lost on some bus somewhere in the city. At some point, it just turned into effort like I was trying, which wasn't a problem really, until I started to wonder what exactly I was trying to do. I guess everything needs a goal after all. I don't know what the shit I'm talking about. Anyway, this man is still in my bathroom like this is a Shining, and me about to get on like Jack Nicholson. All this time I'm trying to figure out what health problem such a strapping man could have, and it never occurred to me even once that clearly his problem was not physical. It's amazing how I just have a nose for tribulation. I swear to God, at least he's locking himself in the bathroom. He's not about to turn into an axe murderer. From the look of things, I am the axe murderer in this story. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. That will lead to thinking again. How about this? There's a man inside my bathroom that needs to come out. I can't get him out, so his family is coming to get him. Now I can get some peace from just concentrating on the facts of the situation. I like how that just reduces everything into something I need to care about. I like reduction, boiling down, editing out, leaving behind. Enough with metaphors now for just cutting this unnecessary shit from my life. And right now, all the unnecessary shit is locked away in the bathroom. Two sounds that I know. Windows sliding up and back down, but there's a grill to keep people out, plus we're 5 floors up, which I guess he didn't remember. He's trying to escape. How long before he works up some courage to kick down the door and fight? Would he see that it was a woman in the house all along and leave? Try to beat me up? I don't know about these ex-soldiers, you know. Everybody in this city looked like any minute they might fall apart. You know what? I'm just gonna stay sitting on this couch, straighten out the red velvet covering on the arm, and watch the end of T.J. Hooker. I'm going to sit here and wait until his son or whoever shows up, until given that they have called 3 times to get the address, who knows when that will be. Maybe I should ask if he needs something. That's what people always ask on TV shows. I'm certainly not gonna ask if he wants to talk about it. Maybe I should clean up my apartment since people are coming over. Sure, like they're coming over to check the place. They won't even notice the bathroom rug that their daddy is sitting on. Maybe he's sitting on the toilet, or maybe the edge of the tub, I don't know. What is he doing in there? Jesus Christ, he was so normal only a few hours ago. So normal and nice, and those words that men are just not worth using anymore. Dashing, debonair, something else that begins with a D. I mean, he was almost, I did everything to not think of him that way about men. Sorry, I did everything, try to not to think about him that way, since thinking that way about men never ends well. And here it is, things didn't end well. Lesbians must be the most satisfied people on the planet. Maybe I should go over to the door and tell him again that his son is coming, except fuck you, whoever you are, wasn't very funny the first time. And it won't be any funnier the second time. I knock on the door. There's Miss Coulters wearing a scarf on her head that looks like she's hiding rollers, and a thick camel coat because that makes perfect sense on a summer night. She whispers, "For Christ's sakes," and walks right past me. Since I'm pretty sure that I don't have a job anymore, and as such don't have to be polite to pushy white people, I was just about to tell this makeup bitch to show some rascal manners in my house when the son makes it upstairs straight to my door. I'm so very sorry for all of this, he says. He doesn't wait for me to invite him in either. Now I feel like a stranger in my house. I'm actually measuring my steps as I walk and hoping I'm not making too much fuss as they gather at my bathroom door. Papa! Oh, Papa, this is just so ridiculous. Get out of there. Fuck you, cunt. Dad, you know I don't appreciate you speaking to my wife that way. I have a name, Gaston, she says. One issue at a time, dear. Pop, you come out now. This isn't home in case you didn't notice. Who the hell put me here? Papa, it's because you won't take your pills. Why is this shrill bitch calling me her papa? You were at our wedding, Dad. Stop acting like you've forgotten that too. The son looks at me and mouths, I am so sorry for all of this. Anyway, Dad, we really need to give Miss Palmer her apartment. She's put up with enough as it is. How did I get here? You weren't kidnapped, Papa. I know I wasn't kidnapped, you stupid bitch. You think that little black woman could have kidnapped me? Little. Dad, we spoke. We've had this talk about your blackouts, remember? Where am I? You're in the Bronx, Papa. Who the fuck blacks out then ends up in the Bronx? Apparently you do, Papa. Could somebody shut that bitch up? Okay, that's really quite enough, Dad. Stop and come out. You're a joke. Oh, okay, Dad, I'm the joke. Who's a grown man who just realized that he's on some woman's john in the middle of the Bronx and has no idea how he got here? I am the joke? Listen, Pop, I don't know how you got into this poor woman's apartment, and I don't really care either. But unless you want her to call the police for them to drag your ass to jail for breaking and entering, if not worse, get the fuck out of her bathroom so we can fucking go. I'm not going, Ken, now. The wife comes over to me. That armchair, is it Danish modern? She says, I say no, but I really wanted to say it's so modern that it was tossed out on the street only 3 days ago. She's just like rich women everywhere, including Jamaica. If it wasn't for the string of pearls, they'd never know what to do with their hands. Ken finally comes out, though nobody has to tell me that I don't get to call him Ken anymore. He looks the same, except that his hair is not behaving like a movie star's anymore. Some of it is hanging over his left eyebrow. He stands up straight and begins to walk out of the house. Gail, darling, could you walk Dad to the car? Really, darling, I don't think I have any words to give. I'm not walking anywhere with this bitch. Both of you, get the fuck out of this woman's house now. The woman leaves, tugging her pearls, and it looks like she's using the necklace to pull herself. Mr. Coulter stops to look at me, not up and down, summing up that snobs do, but straight in the eye. I look away first. The son sits down. I don't think we've met, he says. No, you were gone to work. Right. And you're Dorcas, right? Yes. How did he get here? I don't know if I should answer him or take in more of how he looks like Lyle Waggoner too. I wonder if you would be happy or angry if I said they look like brothers. Is he who wanted to leave? It's not like I could stop him. All I could do was follow him and make sure he didn't get into trouble. But the Bronx? You know I don't have to answer that. You people called the wrong agency, at least that's how it looked. He was the one who wanted to have food in the Bronx. I didn't have to follow him. Hey, I'm not judging you, ma'am. Not a thing happened here. Miss Dorcas, I really don't care. So you know the deal with my pop? The maids never get around to explaining anything, but I figured there must be something if they call the agency. Every day is a new day for Pop. Every day is a new day for everybody. Yeah, but everything is new for Pop. My father has a condition. I'm not sure I'm following you. He doesn't remember. He's not going to remember yesterday or today not meeting you, what he had for breakfast by noon tomorrow. He won't even remember being in your bathroom. That sounds like a condition in a movie, a very, very long one. He remembers stuff like how to tie his tie and shoelaces, where his bank is, his social security number, but the president is still Carter. Oh. And John Lennon is still alive. Huh? Nothing. Doesn't matter if you tell him, doesn't matter what you tell him, by the next day he forgets. Sorry. He can't remember anything since around April 1980. So he remembers his children. He remembers hating my wife because of an argument they had the same day it happened. But every morning the kids are a surprise to him. And to him, Mom died 2 years ago. What happened to him? That's such a long story. Accident, disease, after 4 years, it doesn't matter. He never remembers that he forgets. Nope. Is it getting worse? I really don't know. I'm thinking that's not so bad. You should know that's why the last one before you quit. Really, that's not what Never mind, she quit? Yeah, I guess it got to her after a few weeks, having to introduce herself every day to a cranky old man who doesn't know why she's there. And even with that, she couldn't get past not treating him like he was sick, even though that's what she was there for. You're pretty much waiting for a bomb to go off. He's not old, huh? No, I guess he's not. Anyway, we've got to take him home. We'll call the agency and let them know it was no fault of yours and that we need a new. No, huh? Don't call the agency. I want the job. You sure? Yes, I'm sure. I'll take it. Thank you.
So I was going to maybe ask why you picked that scene to read.
I don't know. I was initially going to pick a scene where I spoke about where a journalist is sitting on the bed and a hitman is on the bed waiting to kill him. And I figured that's such a Marlon James scene to read. And because I think this character, Dorcas, is one of the few characters that makes it to the end of the book. And I'm still very much interested in survivors. And she kind of does. She closes the book. And she didn't open it, but she is a character who manages to navigate this really violent, turbulent world and still sort of come out on top. For her, survival is victory.
Yeah, so Dorcas is a character maybe some folks are drawn to. I, have not been able to let go of over the years. Lilith from Book of Night Women. I don't know if other readers in the room feel this way. And if I could, I just wanted to share this passage I came across about a year ago. So this is from a scholar named Kaima L. Glover. And so she has a chapter about Lilith in her book, The Regarded Self. So she says, if we are determined to speculate our way around the archive of slavery, James implies, we must admit the possibility of finding things we do not like about those we have gone in ready to love. We must admit the bad and the ugly into our renderings of history. And I had kind of been sitting with Lilith's character over the years. I've taught her to undergrads twice now, and kind of like, she's so complicated with her trauma and her pain, of course, her grief, her rage, but also kind of like she's feeling herself. She thinks she's superior to the other, right? Kind of enslaved folks. And so I was just thinking about Glover's point here that it's something about the good in her, but just that bad and ugly too, that maybe I can't really get over. So I was wondering if you could say something about conceiving of her, writing about her. Are you over her? Because I keep speaking. I think about her
I'm not
still.
really over her, especially because it's not supposed to be her book.
Right.
The original version of Book of Night Women happened in 1838. And there's a scene where somebody talks about two women, old women, who are working a bar, and one of them said, that woman's name is Lilith, and you should ask her what's really going on. And I remember thinking, okay, I'll write a chapter about this Lilith woman. Okay, I'll write it in slave patois, probably 5 pages, and I'll be done. And when I started writing her, she really just took over the book. I remember, because this is the book I did for my thesis, and I remember complaining to my professor, she's stolen my book. She's taken my book. And he's like, well, you can't have to go where she's going. I go, it's my damn book. It's not hers. And I fought her almost every step of the way. I'm like, eventually I'm going to get back to my novel and leave this woman alone. And she just wouldn't. She just wouldn't let go of this book. And that's how she happened. And Lilith is so complicated. And, I'd read Beloved. And one of the things that Toni Morrison forces us to do is to answer really troubling questions. If you read Beloved, the question is, can murder be an act of love? And you have to have your own answer. Some people say yes, some people say no, but you're going to have an answer. And, there's a scene in Book of Night Women where Lilith has to choose who to kill, sister or father, which is it's an impossible choice. And Lilith was the first character I think I wrote where I just don't approve of her actions most of the time. The funniest thing about this is there was a chat group, Book of Night Women chat group, and they talked about her like she was in the room. And I was like, girl, I can't stand you for what you just did. And because, I talk to people, they ask me, is it okay to hate her a little bit? I'm like, of course it is. I am all for people loving and hating characters. It's when they don't care that I think I'm in trouble. But she was just so messy in a way in which I think sometimes when you are a black writer, you're not allowed to make your characters messy. They're supposed to have figured it out or so on. And she is just a complete mess, and she continues being a mess. She makes some really bad choices, but at the same time, I'm thinking, how many slaves get to make choices? She chooses some things. She dares to think she could probably entertain love.
Right. Have desire,
and so on, and not realizing every now and then, even I am screaming, girl, you're on a slave plantation. Right. It's like, you're not at a Martin Luther King rally. You're in a slave plantation, girl. Or I'd be like, girl, you can't read. So of course her response to me is, I'll teach my ass how to read. And she does. So I just got out of her way. She's the first character where I think I just got out of the way. And I think that's how I've been writing ever since. I just feel like I'm this journalist for Imagine People. And I just get out of their way.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. And I just say, as a quick aside, I also think with the paying attention theme, Lilith paid attention, right? So she was always surveilled, but she was kind of wary and watchful, and so I've been thinking about her a lot in relationship to this kind of paying attention.
Yeah, and she learns how to do that from Homer. Like Homer learns not just how to read, but how to read upside down. So when the master has her in his study, he thinks, well, she's illiterate anyway, and not only is she illiterate, she can read that slave journal, she can read that tax book, she can read that ship log. And he doesn't know. So she knows weeks before who's going to come to the estate, who is this, and so on, because she taught herself how to do it. So it's a paying attention.
Absolutely. I was going to say that I think a lot of your novels are also interested in like how we as a collective tell stories to each other, and also thinking about what are stories for, or what they can do. And so, of course, I'm thinking again about Book of Night Women, with Lovey being kind of storyteller in that story. But also in Black Leopard, Red Wolf, throwing in the griot to give us this like key piece of Trocker's story. So I'm wondering if you could talk about, in any of the novels, what is it about the novel form specifically that allows you to help us think about what stories do, whether that's as a form of currency, a type of competition. I mean, they can just do real work.
Yeah, I think I've written a few books. I've never stopped being a reader first. And I'm still very much interested in what stories can do. And in quite a few of my novels, people are impacted by story. In all sorts of ways. In some ways, Lilith's crisis is literary, because she's reading about all these upstanding men, and then she's seeing the men in real life, and they're nothing like that. She's on a plantation, she's a slave, she's always at the risk of sexual violence, and she's reading about men who turn down sex. And even when it's not a novel, although novels appear in my book quite a bit. It's stories about stories. So in Black Leopard, it's a novel about somebody telling a story. In Moonwitch, it's about somebody telling a story. And even with Black Leopard, he interrupts his own story to give all these folk tales. and so on. There's a part in Moonwitch where there's no way Sutherland could remember, but a griot does. So he jumps in to tell the story. In fact, when that Moonwitch opens, it's in third person, which implies that Sutherland is not telling the story about Sutherland.
Yeah. Yeah.
So because I've also witnessed it. I've always witnessed being transformed by story. You know, I remember the first time I read Sula, and Sula is on her deathbed, and Sula did a lot of things, you know, that were ill-advised, including sleeping with her best friend's man, because he's there. And anyway, and Nell is like, you know, you did all these horrible things. You came between me and my man. And she's like, what is a man that you're letting come between us? And she said, you know, I sure lived in this world. And Nell says, well, what do you have to show for it? And I was like, yes, Sula, what do you have to show for it? And Sula says, show to who?
Right.
And I don't have a lot of fall off the chair moments, but I had a fall off the chair moment because at that time in my life, I was pretty young and pretty depressed for a lot of reasons. It never occurred to me that you could live your life for yourself. So the idea that there is nobody to show your life to, there's nobody to show it to, nobody to prove, nobody to convince, it blew my mind. I remember I just started crying. You know, I tell people, it's not the ending of Sula that made me cry, it's that line, show to who. And that's really, yeah, a story can change your life. I'm not saying I'm trying to change people's lives. What I'm saying is I recognize what story can do. So a lot of my stories are about what stories do.
Yeah. I'm just thinking too quickly about the scene in Black Leopard. Always thinking about spoilers and not, but you know, the burning of a library too. I think that just felt like such a powerful scene right now. You know, and that kind of question you ask, which is, you know, what do we do when your history is about to burn? You know, what do you do? So I think you just help us to kind of think about why people find certain stories threatening, you know, also that I think is really important right now.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I thought it was kind of ironic that that novel won the Ray Bradbury Prize because of Fahrenheit 451 and the idea that if you can destroy the story, if you can suppress the story, you can suppress the narrative. I go to a lot of book festivals and a lot of forums, and it's always interesting when writers of books and lovers of books worry about where are books going? What is the future of literature? Does it even have a future? Do books even matter? You know who knows that books matter? Enemies of books. You know who know? You know, Trump has a bigger idea of the power of books than most writers because he wants them burned. You know, it's the people who want to destroy literature know full well how powerful literature is.
Yeah.
It's us sitting down here wondering, books, what's the future? I forget where I was going with this point.
No, but
because I think it turned into a rant.
It's time. It's just a timely.
Yeah, but even in Night Woman, it's a story about who gets to tell the story. And she fights for it. She fights for agency in her own book and in her own thing, because so many people have these other stories about her.
Right.
And even the term Moonwitch is not hers. You know, she's called that, and she never calls herself that. You know, and and again, it's something that I am very much interested in, because you know, I come from a culture of erasure. I come from a culture where you wonder who's telling the story.
Right.
When I was researching both of those books, one of the things I realized is that 2/3 of the African history books are useless because they're written from a colonial gaze. They were unintentionally funny, but they were pretty useless because, again, who gets to tell the story?
Right. That's powerful. Another thing that I've been kind of thinking about in my work is madness. And so I didn't know, you know, if there, in any of the novels, again, if you want to think with us about what's the place of madness. So I think for the readers here, we know you write about madness. For example, as a product of incest in royal lines, or madness in the moon, or madness in the wake of death of a parent or a partner. And I think also really importantly, madness being ascribed to certain bodies, right? When they disrupt the status quo, or they, kind of impede a normative progress in some way. But there's so much madness, and I love this moment where a soldier named Mossy in Black Leopard says to Tracker, essentially like, do you know anyone that's not mad? I mean, it's like madness is everywhere. And so I just was kind of curious about, there's so much of it, right? It feels, it has not centrality, but it has a weight in your work, if you could kind of talk about that.
It's funny, in Night Woman, there are these extreme moments where the person says she discovers true darkness and true womanness that makes a man scream. And one of the formative novels for me was White Sargasso Sea. And the way in which that frames madness, not just who caused it, but what madness does. Because in that book, madness becomes a cleansing force. It's why it's ruined me for Jane Eyre. And the Brontes, who I constantly diss. Sorry, I'm team Jane Austen. You can get out of here with your Brontes. But there is one who gets to decide mad. It's interesting that up to the 1940s, spontaneity was considered a mental illness in women. And don't get us started about queerness. So it's a lot of it is who gets to define it, who gets to fall apart, who gets to show violence, and it's something that I've always been haunted by. I don't know if I've always feared going mad, but there is a certain kind of absence of shame that I like. And there is an absence of judgment, or not absence of judgment, absence of caring about judgment. But at the same time, I didn't really realize that madness occurs in my stuff so much, honestly. That's kind of cool. My characters lose it in the new book too. So.
Okay. I want to make sure we leave time for audience questions, so maybe two more things. So we know there's a third novel following Black Leopard, Red Wolf, and Moon Witch, Spider King. And if you all have it, if you look in the acknowledgments of Black Leopard, you say that your mother is allowed to read all but 2 pages of that book.
Yeah.
And then in Moon Witch, you say in the acknowledgments that your mother is allowed to read all of that book. And so as we look ahead to this third book, whatever you feel comfortable sharing with us about it, I'm really interested in hearing about whose narrative perspective might be most represented, or what you're going to let your loved ones see or not see.
So that's a running joke in all my books. In all the acknowledgments, it says how much of the book I allow my mother to read. Like my first novel says, to my mother who should not read this book. And then I think I can't remember what I was saying this about. Let's see, what did I say about my mom in this book? I'm very curious now, because this was like from 10 years ago. Okay, I have no idea. Because, all right, I have to say, what did I tell my mom to read in this book? I have here that, to such and such, blah, blah, blah. Thanks to my family and friends, and this time around, maybe my mother should stay away from part 4 of this book.
Part 4. Okay.
It's funny because I have 2 books on the horizon. One's done and one's not. The one that's not done is the third in the trilogy. It's called White Wing, Dark Star. And I'm not going to tell people who narrates it. It's a surprise who tells that one. Yeah. And those of you who don't know the trilogy, it's not like a part 1, part 2, part 3. So you can actually read them in any order. And it's interesting talking to people who read the second novel first. The people who read the first novel first feel so betrayed by the second novel.
I did that. I read Black Leopard.
Yeah, because it fell so hard for Tracker. And Tracker is such an asshole in the new book. He's such a wretched, horrible person. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sogolon doesn't even care that much about it. It's not even that she hates him. She's just like, whatever, idiot. And in fact, one of my friends, Kaylee Jones, got mentioned, and Kaylee Jones, one of my mentor, she says, I love I love the second one, but I have issues. You can't get me to hate Tracker, so I'm going to hate this person instead. And then the people who read the second novel 1st, they're like, who's this guy Tracker fooling?
Yeah.
So the third one, again, as I said, I can't read it in any order. But the book I have coming out next is actually Return to Jamaica. It's sort of in the vein of Brief History, and it's in the same style, and it's called The Disappearers. And it's, I guess it's the most personal novel I've written. It's about a bunch of gay men who tried to put on a play in Jamaica. Actually, a play that James Baldwin put on in Turkey. And in the midst of it, they get sort of really horribly gay bashed. And they end up in hospital, and 3 days in hospital, 2 of the men just vanish without a trace. Which is why the book is called The Disappearers. And it's about what happens in the wake of them disappearing, how the other characters move on. Do they move on? Do they build lives? Do they search for them? Do they plot revenge? And that's coming out in September.
Yeah.
Look out for it.
Yeah, I had a kind of question about that because a little birdie named Arlo let me see some of the manuscript.
Wow.
Yeah,
and
so I
it's
had
so embargoed.
Is this a top secret? But I was thinking of Bushra's comments yesterday on a panel, just about like the moment of the 1980s, right? Because I think that novel's late 80s start around, and so Bushra talked about the importance in the novel Rose's Mouth of the Lion of like going back to that moment in particular, for her going to Corona and Queens and really thinking about, like, I'm paraphrasing of course, but like what it meant to be in that place at that moment and trying to kind of be and be out, in that moment, in the throes of the AIDS epidemic and all these things.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering about, I was, from what I got to see, thinking about what's the importance of the late 80s, 90s moment to the new novel?
I mean, the importance is mostly personal. That's when 1988, I was 18. Coming of age, that's why I'm really paying attention to this Gen Alpha who came of age during COVID. Because I came of age during AIDS. And even as late as 1988, our university was still burning the beds after every semester because they think that would stop the transmission. Even though by 88, I think we knew a lot about AIDS. I grew up with a hysteria. There is a part of me that will never separate homosexuality from AIDS. I got to know the person who took care of our patient zero. And AIDS is something that I actually didn't think would figure into the novel. And then I did the research. And I also listened to people like my partner who thought I was kidding myself by thinking AIDS is not going to happen in this book. And but then I did the research. I'm like, AIDS happened everywhere. But it was a kind of a wild time in the 80s. We all thought nuclear bomb was going to kill us anyway. We weren't gonna make it till 1990 something. Gen X can talk about the day they watched the day after, and so on. So and so there was that sense. There was a sense of things kind of coming to an end in a way. And in Jamaica, there was a sort of a glory period of being gay. Jamaica is world infamous for its homophobia, but there was a time when there were 5 gay clubs in Kingston, including a jazz club named Andante. And everybody knew if you stay by 9 p.m., that's when the drag queens show up. And people used to go there. The prime minister of the country used to go to Andante. And everybody knew it was just the place to be. If you are like me in 1988, that glory days are already gone. So he's 18 years old and he's already nostalgic for a period he's never experienced. And I thought about that. These gay golden ages that I'm still obsessed with, not just in Jamaica, but in New York or London. And that novel goes to London in the 1940s because I have this, not fear of, a FOMO of fear of having missed out. And I become obsessed with sort of excavating that and uncovering that. And it's great talking to people who live there and live through it.
Okay, I said two more, but maybe just one more, and then we'll open it up to the audience. I was just thinking about what I see is also kind of tension in your work between like wisdom, knowledge, and then, kind of faith, belief, magic, spirit, right? And so, yeah, again, thinking about Black Leopard to this like conversation between Tracker and Mossy at that point, if I'm remembering correctly, is the kind of non-believer, right? And Tracker says to him, I'll just quote, "Just like all you men of learning, everything in the world cooks down to two. Either or, if then, yes, no, night, day, good, bad. You all believe in two so much, I wonder if any of you can count to three." And so I just was, maybe we'll end there before we open up around, just kind of that tension and not also what maybe wisdom, meaning like, right, like appropriate or legitimate ways of knowing. Do you kind of invite us to suspend, right, when we come into these worlds that you craft for us?
Yeah, especially with that novel, because to write that novel, I had to sort of change myself to write it. Because it would have been very easy to just write a novel in brown face. Or it would have been very easy to write an Arthurian legend and make everybody brown. And it's not just changing the setting and the people, it's also changing the worldview. Believe it or not, the queerness in that novel happened by accident. I wasn't trying to make it a queer novel at all. I was just doing the research. And, a lot of what I know about homosexuality in Africa is contemporary Africa. And if you go back and do the research, you realize that it's homophobia that's new in Africa, not homosexuality. And that, I said this once. I was in Miami. I think I was in Little Haiti, and I did a reading. And I said, black people in the audience, you never wondered how come you just naturally call one person them? It's like, nobody had to tell us they, them pronouns.
Yeah.
You just naturally do it. Where do you think that comes from? Because there are certain African tribes where there are 14 genders. The shoga is kind of a pejorative in certain cultures now. But there was a time where if I am a king and I need to transport my virgin princess across the terrain, I trust the shoga men because I know they're gay. I was like, none of those men touching my girl.
Yeah.
They'll be too busy touching each other. But and they know, and it's and I wanted that kind of sexual carefreeness. That's not a word. But it's that came from actually doing the research about ancient African peoples and tribes and so on, and but that was also part of the letting go, because I think it would have been very easy to just write an African novel with Western values, and I had to bring it even to the way they count. So there's no 11, there's no 11. There's 10 and 1. Or 9 and 1, because it doesn't go up to that. But also remembering that in a lot of ways, their worldview is centuries ahead of the West. Nobody had to tell West Africa that the world was round. Nobody had to tell them that the sun goes, that the earth goes around the sun and not the other way around. If you watch videos of the Dogon, they're spinning solar systems by rope all the time. And to tap into that sort of vast richness and realizing I'm not entering this thing as some sort of brain, some sort of intellect. I'm entering this thing not knowing a damn thing, and just trying to catch everything and put it in there. Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right, I'll stop being selfish, and maybe we'll open it up to the audience for questions.
Please stand to ask your question and wait for a microphone to come to you.
I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about your research process, especially because I really love brief history of 7 killings, and I was just wondering how you went about recreating that moment in time.
I sometimes I think the reason why I'm called a historical novelist is because I'm obsessed with research, and I spend a lot of time doing it. Actual writing for me is reasonably quick. It usually takes me between 16 and 18 months to write a novel, and I write some long-ass novels. But the research will take years. Like Black Leopard, that was 4 years of research. Brief History was also another 4 years. As a researcher, I like the boring stuff. Give me the tax records. Give me the tax records, give me the shopping list, give me the ship log. I love it. I love that nerd stuff. Also, because I like primary sources. Like, I'll check your biography to read what you read. And that led to a lot of breakthroughs. For example, in Book of Night Woman, it was doing the research I came across Thomas Thistle Diaries, which once you read, you can't unread. It's a horrendous document. I read him say you wouldn't have to. That's why I had a character slap him in the book, because somebody had to take revenge on that asshole. And I love doing that in books. Yeah. Most of my novels, all but one of my novels is in first person. Even Book of Night Woman is still somebody telling a story, and that person has an opinion on the person they're talking about. But I think for me, I need to get to the point where I can move through the world as if I live in it. Even if it's fantasy, it can't be fantasy for me. I can tell, certainly with my students, when they write like a tourist. And if you've read, one of the things I like about Hemingway's nonfiction, especially when he writes about Spain, is that he's not trying to act as if he's lived there all his life, but he also writes it from the point of view of somebody who knows it. Because would have been very easy for him to write it like a tourist. And for me, I have to believe that these characters have always lived in this world, even if I haven't. So I research enough. I remember the turning point for Book of Night Woman, I can't remember the name of the book. It's something like What Jane Austen Ate, What Dickens Wore. And nerds like me will read that, so that I know that, when the lady is descending the carriage, she's wearing a capote mob bonnet, not just a normal bonnet, because normal bonnets were out, and capote mob bonnets, which is weird. That it almost sounds like Capone, Al Capone mob something. But writing for me, research for me is also a great way to not write, because I love to not write. I tell people, I don't know where I stand as a writer, but I'm the greatest procrastinator of my generation. And any reason not to write, I'll take it. And research is a very good way to not write something. So, and I really do fall guilty. I remember years ago, she won't remember this. I remember asking Jane Smiley how much you need to research before you can write, because I'm looking for a reason to research more and not write. And I think she said, research enough that you can write, let's say, 200 pages and figure the rest out. And which is not what I wanted to hear, because I didn't want to go back to writing. But I've been following it, ever since. So even while I'm writing, I'm still researching as I'm going on. I remember a book I was writing, and I was very, very big on the atmosphere being Napoleon. Napoleon is invaded such and such, and the whole world is scared of Napoleon. And I got to use all these great metaphors about short people and ambition and all of that. And then I did some research 200 pages into the book and realized Napoleon wasn't Napoleon yet. And the hardest thing to change in a book is atmosphere. It's easy to change a character or to change a scene, but atmosphere is all over the damn book. So I pretty much had to rewrite the thing because Napoleon wasn't Napoleon. First I thought, what could I get away with it and just say, the author taking license. But yeah, but it's an ongoing thing for me. And something I also genuinely enjoy doing.
There's also a microphone on the balcony if anyone has a question up there.
If not, then you're going to have to ask me more questions.
I got
Yeah, we have about 5 more minutes.
Arlo can give me the nod.
Oh, we have one in the
I
middle.
got more.
Oh,
Oh, there we go.
so I got told everybody everything they need to know.
I'll try to come up with something just so I can listen to you talk more. And you're fabulous with asking the question, so please, whatever you ask and ask. But do you have any advice to aspiring writers? Because the room's probably has a lot of them in here.
I think people already know this. My first novel was rejected 78 times. The last publisher, who shall remain nameless, Soho Press. Not that I give a grudge or anything. Just sent me a note that just said, "Not for us." And I wish I could say I had, nerves of steel and so on. No, I didn't. I lost it. I tore up the book. I actually burnt it. It was very cleansing, burning your own manuscript. Don't do it. And I remember, erasing it from my laptop. I remember everywhere I printed out a copy, I went on to my friends' computers and erased it from their computers. I wanted no trace of this thing at all. I was like, screw it, I'm not a writer. And but I was already registered for a writing course, and I couldn't get out of it because I know how much they spent on this free course. And so I'm in this writing class, and the teacher is Kaylee Jones, a novelist, and also James Jones's daughter. And she's like, you're a pretty good writer. Do you have anything? I'm like, I don't do writing. Somebody in the class says, he's lying. He wrote a book. He just doesn't want to show you. And I'm like, no, I kind of destroyed the book. There is no book. And Kaylee Jones looks at me, and pardon my French, she says, you don't know me, but I don't bullshit and I don't fuck around. I am not leaving here until you give me that book. And so I'm gonna have to find a book that I destroyed from wiped off the face of the earth, and I couldn't find it anywhere. Norton Utilities, turns out, doesn't undelete after 2 years. And it wasn't until I went into, you remember the very first iMac, that teal iMac? I went onto one of those and went into Outlook Express. The millennials have no idea what I'm talking about. Outlook Express, and it was in the outbox that I sent it to somebody. And I remember I didn't have enough paper, so I cut the first 20 pages and the last 20 pages without looking. Hey, turns out it worked. And, she took it, and she couldn't believe I couldn't find a publisher. And she took it to her publisher, Akashic Books, and he couldn't believe it wasn't published either. And between the two of them, it got published, and I became a writer. What's the lesson there? Writer, reader number 79 may be the one that publishes you. I learned that majority can mean all the wrong people are on the same side. It can 100 people be wrong about a book? Of course they can be. I remember when that Opal Mather book came out, and everybody was so in love with it, they didn't realize she plagiarized 2/3 of it. I also think, if you're a writer, a few things. One, you have to believe in yourself, because if you're a writer, you're going to come across that moment when you're the only one who believes in yourself. And you have to be ready for that moment. And I also think, I hear a lot of people talk about they're their own harshest critics. I'm like, girl, that job's filled. Have you seen my Goodreads? I don't have time to be their own harshest critic. Somebody already has that job, and they're doing it as we speak. So I think you should be your most generous critic to yourself. You can be honest and generous at the same time. Oh.
That's good. Thank you all so much.
Thank you guys for staying.
Thank you.